Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Hi, Rabbi.
I've been gone for a few weeks, so it's so wonderful to be back. And I also feel like, was everyone this chatty as the service was starting a few weeks ago?
They just get worse and worse.
I know. I'm glad everyone is feeling so awake and comfortable and happy to see each other. This week's Torah portion is Hayei Sarah. And Hayei Sarah, in many ways, centers around a well. That there's a well that our ancestors would come and gather at. And the well was a place where people would come meet each other, they would make connections, they would greet each other, they would be refreshed, they would fall in love, they would talk to God. There's something spiritual and magical and powerful about the well. And so tonight, in our service, we're going to be asking ourselves, where is our well? And what is our well? And in Chicago, how do we look at Temple Sholom and say, who's coming to our well? And how do we expand who's coming to our well? And whose well are we going to visit? And how are we going to see the beauty that happens when we expand who is in and at our well? And so I'm so excited and honored that Tanika Johnson of the Folded Map Project is here tonight. She's going to speak later on in the service. And that we're really celebrating Shalem. We're celebrating our group of Jews of color who make our well at Temple Sholom so much better than it would be without them. And also, Shabbat is a well. It's a place and a time when we replenish ourselves, when we rest, when we take time for the nourishment and the water and the hope that we need. So I hope that during this service, whether you're coming in with joy or coming in with sadness, you can just take time to be here and breathe in the rest and the presence that is in this well. So we are going to begin tonight with our candle blessing, and I'm so honored to invite up Nia, who is one of our incredible Shalem leaders, to light our candles for us. We're on page 120. And if you're joining us on Zoom, you are on page 2. Lighting the candles is the hardest part of the whole service. Amen. So we bring in Shabbat with light and also with the sweetness of family and wine or juice. And I'm so honored to invite up the Min family to lead us in our Kiddush, our blessing over the wine.
Hi, Jessica. You want to hold it? You get over here. You're my bar mitzvah. Come here. Okay.
I forgot everything.
It's okay. You forgot everything. Okay, I got you guys. You ready? We're on page 123. Okay? Here we go. Even if you just get this first line. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzah banu v'shabbat kodsho b'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron l'maaseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila lo nikra'e kodesh zecher l'tziyat mitzrayim ki banu bacharta v'otanu kidashta mikol hamim v'shabbat kodshecha v'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat. Amen. Just hold it up and say l'chaim.
L'chaim.
That was perfect.
Yasher Koach. That really was perfect, dancing and all.
Look
So
out for the
thank you.
greatest Facebook posts ever with the Min family. Thank you, guys.
We are on page 138 for Lachado D. And I actually, a week ago, was in Tzfat, was in the town in northern Israel where this prayer was written. And what was so incredible about being there was the reminder that this prayer was written in a time of massive Jewish evolution, when rabbis and poets and scholars were all coming together and saying, connecting to the divine has to be something that changes and evolves over time. And there's so many different ways to do it and feel it and understand it. So that's what we are doing, are attempting to do in Lachado D. And we're on page 138, or if you're online, we're on page 5.
Lachado di likrat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lachado di likrat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibor echad ishmianu el hamyuchad Adonai echad u'shmo echad l'shemo tiferet v'litila lechado di likrat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lechado di likrat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nilcha ki mekor habaracha merosh mikedem nesucha sov maaseh b'machashava tchila lechado di likrat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lechado di likrat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela. Hitoreri kivorech umiori uri shir daberi kevod Adonai alayach nigla lechado di likrat
Please rise in body and in spirit, and we face the entrance to welcome in the Shabbat bride.
בואי ושלום, התרת בעלה, גם בשמחה וצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
Please be seated. We are on page 142 for Shalom Alechem.
Shalom Alechem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon. Mimelech, Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mimelech, Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Barchuni l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mimelech, Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzeitchem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mimelech, Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
We are on page 138 for the Baruch Hu. This prayer has a call and response, and that call and response mimics in some ways the way that we call out to one another, and that we answer one another and say, there's so much blessing in our relationships, and the fact that we're not alone, and that we bring so much blessing to each other's lives. So we invite you to rise in body and in spirit as we bless each other, and we bless this moment with the Baruch Hu.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
We're on page 152 for the Shema, our prayer about deep listening.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shem Gemun, Shem Gemun, Malchuto, Leolam Vaed.
Please be seated on page 154.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Elohechem Emet. We're going to open up to page 158, and for our friends online on page 40. For our words, and we're going to break. We're going
I
to
will
break
take care of
things
that. You
too.
just keep being brilliant.
Oh, thank you, Cantor.
I got it.
As on this page, celebrating the Mi Chamocha, we celebrate those journeys that we've been on. Each of us our own unique journey, but one that we take with incredible, beautiful, wonderful people all around us.
Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, Dora tehilot
Tehilot,
oseh
Oseh,
Pele Nora
Nora,
tehilot
Tehilot,
oseh
Oseh,
Pele malchutecha ra'u manecha bokei hayam lifnei Moshe uMiriam ze Eli
Deli,
anu
Anu,
ve'anu Adonai
Adonai,
yimloch
Imloch,
leolam
Leolam,
va'ed.
Vaed. Turning the page, we continue the words of Hashkivenu.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamidenu shomreinu lechaim lechaim Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamidenu shomreinu lechaim lechaim ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamidenu shomreinu לחיים, לחיים.
As we open to page 164, 165, or 46, on the left side of the page, a intention as we step into the Amidah. Prayer invites God's presence to suffuse our spirits, God's will to prevail in our lives. Prayer may not bring water to parched fields, nor mend a broken bridge, nor rebuild a ruined city, but prayer can water an arid soul, mend a broken heart, and rebuild a weakened will. We rise on page 164, continuing on the even pages.
Lie, 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 lie. 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 Adonai.
Adonai.
Tifatai tifta. Ufi agir. Tehilatecha. Adonai. Open up our lips.
Open up our lips,
That our mouth
that our mouths
may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor, Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei Hakol, V'zocher Chasdei Avot V'imahot, U'mevi Geula Livnei V'neihem, L'man Shemo V'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham v'Ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol atah Rav L'Hoshia, Mashiv HaRuach Morid HaGashem, Mechalkel Chaim v'Chesed, Mechayeh HaKol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim v'rofech cholim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato lishenei afar, Milchamocha bal givurot, Umido melach, Melech meimit umechayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'nemanat al hachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh hakol, Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, U'kdoshim b'chol yom yihallelu Selah, Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el hakadosh.
An invitation to silent prayer, a poem by Lani Manka called I Witness. I witness the breath of God wafting below me, hinting at complex features. I witness the breath of God entering people's mouths as their lips split to speak of the meaning and practicalities mixed up with the witnessing the breath of God. The breath of God mimicking music, echoing at some indistinguishable distance. We, each one of us, infused with that breath of God, take a moment of silent prayer or meditation. It might be the words in your heart, the words on the page, or a moment just with that Spirit inside of you. When you feel ready, you may be seated.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ויאמרו אמן. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel amen.
That joy, that excitement, that beauty is what we hope all of our friends, our family, and loved ones are able to express in each and every moment. That they have that kind of energy, that kind of joy, that kind of excitement. And we recognize that there is pain, there is hurt, there is suffering of our friends, our family, in our community. And we recognize that hurt, that not everyone has the ability to be that big and joyful and excited and energetic at this moment. But we pray for them to have that full sense of healing as soon as possible. We ask in a prayer by Alden Salavi, God of the Spirit, God of the soul, the breath and the wind, look with kindness and favor on those whose hearts ache, crushed and fallow, whose hearts yearn, empty and broken, whose bodies feel down. God of the nefesh, ruach, and neshama, guide their souls back to wonder and mystery, sacred moments and glorious days, so that they know the power of your love and the wisdom of your word. Let their souls, their minds, their spirits shine with light and blessing. If there are those who we are thinking of who are in need of that prayer of healing, to let their light shine brighter, I invite you to share their name aloud as those who are joining us online have names they submitted shared as well. pray words of healing, which can be found actually at the very bottom of page 677. And the words are simple.
El na rafana la, God, I pray, heal them. And then we end it with refuah shlema. El na rafana la, el na rafana la, el na rafana la, refuah shlema.
Judaism and the Jewish people, we are very used to holding many emotions at the same time. And how fitting then, in our service, do we have prayers for healing right after prayers for peace, and celebrations of birthdays, and also honoring of those who are deceased, all of these emotions. But there's some really special people who have had a great couple of weeks or great weeks to come in this month of November. So if your birthday is in this month of November, I'm going to invite you to come on up. 1 in 12 chance that more than just Jude. Tanika. Come on up here. Yeah. Oh, hello, Amy. Oh, what a great group of people. Oh, fantastic. So what we're going to do is I'm going to ask you just what day of the month your birthday is, and then we're going to get to sing to you all the words of Shehechianu, which say, thank you, God, for enabling us to reach this day or this month in particular where we get to celebrate each of you. So Jude, when's your birthday?
The 1st.
The 1st. Happy birthday. And Amy?
The 8th.
The 8th. Happy birthday.
The 12th.
The 12th. Oh, we've celebrated all of you already. So we get to the second round of celebration now. So we'll join with the cantor.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kimanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Let's give them the longest amen they've ever had.
Happy birthday! And actually, Tanika, you can hang out here because we're going to introduce you. I believe that Rabbi Conover...
Or Linda Tate, I think is...
Oh. So on Zoom, we have... I know, we wanted so bad. Linda Tate, one of our incredible leaders of Shalem, is not in Chicago proper right now, but still leading us so beautifully from afar. So I turn it over to you, Linda. But we gotta make sure she's unmuted and or we have sound coming through. I will lip read. Temple Sholom is incredible. Shabbat Shalom, I got that one. She said Shabbat Shalom. I could read that one. Oh, no. I see our tech wizards in the back working their magic to make sure that we'll be able to hear her. I'm sorry, Linda, we can't hear you yet. Oh, the people on Zoom can hear her. Well, that's good. We've solved half of the problem. I feel like I could just grab my phone. Wait, I'm honestly going to do this. Where's my phone? Here we go. Let's see if putting this on, we're going to fully work around. Oh, it's going to come through like 8 ways. That's not going to work. Because if I speak...
So, well, I think, Linda, if you don't mind, maybe you can thank Tanika afterward, and beforehand, maybe I'll introduce her. Would that be okay, Linda? Okay.
That's fine with me, is what I heard.
Thank you so much. Well, Tanika, I can't believe I have this honor. So I'll just, say to our community what, Tanika, you already know, which is that you're a photographer, and which, by the way, many of us in our community know you through your work, through that work as well. So just thank you. So Tanika Johnson is a photographer, a social justice artist, and lifelong resident of Chicago's South Side neighborhood of Englewood. She is also co-founder of the Englewood Arts Collective and Resident Association of Greater Englewood, which seeks to reframe the narrative of South Side communities and mobilize people and resources for positive change. Tanika's art often explores urban segregation, documenting the nuance and richness of the Black community to counter media depictions of Chicago's violence. As a trained photojournalist and former teaching artist, Tanika's artistic legacy has gained citywide recognition in the last 5 years and for many, many years to come. In 2017, she was recognized by Chicago Magazine as a Chicagoan of the Year for her photography of Englewood's everyday beauty, which, by the way, is when I first knew of you. Yeah, just amazing. It's kind of amazing that you're here and really special. Thank you. Her Englewood-based photography projects from the inside and everyday rituals were exhibited at Rootwork Gallery in Pilsen, the Chicago Cultural Center, the Harold Washington Library Center, and at Loyola University Museum of Art, LUMA. LUMA also exhibited her folded map project in 2018, which visually investigates disparities among map twins, Chicago residents who live on opposite ends of the same streets across the city's racial and economic divides, and brings them together to have a conversation. An excerpt of the project was also displayed at the Museum of Contemporary Art within the Long Dream exhibition. Since 2018, Tanika has transformed Folded Map into an advocacy and policy influencing tool that Temple Sholom has the incredible, incredible honor to be able to use. And it invites audiences to open a dialogue about how we are all socially impacted by racial and institutional conditions that segregate Chicago. In 2020, she formalized Folded Map into a nonprofit organization where she serves as creative executive officer. You didn't realize I was going to read your whole bio, did you? That you would actually also not be sitting in your seat, but standing right next to me as I did.
And I need to shorten it.
It's kind of amazing. If it wasn't this amazing, I wouldn't read all of it. I can't help it. I'm going to keep going because it's so special. You are so special. In 2019, she was named one of Field Foundation's Leaders for a New Chicago and is now serving her second year as appointed member of the Cultural Advisory Council of the Department of Cultural Affairs and Special Events by the Chicago City Council. And most recently, Tanika was selected as the National Public Housing Museum's 2021 Artist as Instigator. In that role, she'll work on her newest project, An Equity for Sale, which highlights the living history of Greater Englewood homes sold on land sale contracts in the 50s and 60s. Without further ado, Tanika Johnson.
Thank you.
Oh my God, thank you.
Thank you. Oh my goodness. I'm so honored to be in this beautiful space tonight with you all and share my work because it is the way in which I love to connect with people. I'm just going to start my timer because I do realize, I can't be talking all night to you all. So really, I just want to provide some context for my work, my projects. I am from and still live in the Greater Englewood neighborhood. So just by a show of hands, how many of you all have heard of the Englewood neighborhood? Okay, thank you. And I'm going to ask you another question, and I want you to keep your hands up and to just take a moment to look around. By a show of hands, how many of you all have been told that Englewood is violent and that you should not visit the neighborhood? Raise them high. I want you all to look around. That's just about the same amount of people who have heard of Englewood. So that is my home, and I love to ask that question because that is how historic segregation and racism is with us today, because it is those instructions that keep people from meeting me. And that is the birthplace of all of my ideas and my projects. And so I'm going to be guiding our amazing AV team to advance to the next slide as I continue to share my work. Just some basic statistics about Greater Englewood that people do not get a chance to hear, oftentimes because the focus on Greater Englewood is through the violence, the gun violence that occurs. But there's a lot of things people don't know about Greater Englewood. One, it's composed of two neighborhoods, Englewood and West Englewood, and those two neighborhoods together actually make up the third largest neighborhood in Chicago. It's over 6 square miles. A lot of people don't know that. So sometimes when you hear about violence on the news in Greater Englewood, it doesn't mean that it's happening in the entire 6 square miles. And Greater Englewood is predominantly Black. The home ownership rate in Greater Englewood is, I just got the new statistic, is close to 33%. And unfortunately, as a result of that low home ownership rate, there's been a total of 18 closed schools in Greater Englewood. That is the most, Englewood is the neighborhood that has the most closed public schools. And the population has declined. Just 20,000 people from 2010 to 2017. And Greater Englewood also has close to 3,000 housing units that have been demolished in a short amount of time. That results in the thousands of vacant lots that are currently existing in Greater Englewood. And those vacant lots are created by homes that were torn down because people were told to not visit, to not purchase, that there is no value there. And so it was important for me to share this information with you all because that's where I grew up. And despite what people have heard about Englewood on the news, it's my home, and my childhood and adult experience in Englewood does not reflect anything that people have heard. And so I knew I wanted to change the narrative so people can begin to understand how my neighborhood started to struggle with certain issues. And so one of the ways in which I share that message is through a project called Folded Map. And instead of talking about what it is, I am a visual artist, multimedia artist, so I'm gonna share with you a media clip of what Folded Map is. And you can advance to the next slide.
Our series, A More Perfect Union, aims to show that what unites us as Americans is far greater than what divides us. And this morning, we're showing you a new approach to bridging divides in Chicago. Neighborhoods from the city's north and south sides are banding together to take on some very deeply rooted issues. The differences between these communities, they are stark. But as Adriana Diaz shows us, together they are tackling segregation and the inequity that comes with it.
Do you have any of those posters left?
Yeah, I do. Chicago residents Nanette Tucker and Wade Wilson share a love of gardening and craft beer.
That would be kind of cool.
It would be cool.
They're like neighbors, sort of.
Wade is called your map twin. Why are you guys twins? We're twins because when you follow the map, we touch one another on the map, north and south.
Like many cities, Chicago's a grid with many streets spanning north to south. If you fold a map of the city in half, you can match addresses on the north side with the same block on the south side.
You lived all your life never thinking you had a twin. And now
Now I have one.
yes.
They live about 15 miles apart, but Wilson and his wife Jennifer live in the majority white north side neighborhood of Edgewater, while Tucker is in the mostly black south side neighborhood of Englewood.
How would you explain the differences between both of your neighborhoods, which are essentially equidistant from the center but worlds apart in many ways?
It's very clear that neighborhoods primarily on the north side have had more investment. Everything from the street lighting to grocery stores and restaurants. It's plentiful on the north side and it's not here.
It's almost like you feel a light come on at a certain spot when you're going north. And when you're coming back south, you can feel the gloom that's upon us in Englewood.
Curiosity.
They met through Tonika Lewis Johnson, a social justice artist who grew up in Englewood, a community often in the news.
Two mass shootings on
Shot
Chicago.
in the head this
drive-by shooting claims the life of a 15-year-old boy in West Englewood.
Lewis Johnson created the Folded Map Project, which includes this film, to change the conversation. She contrasts how the same street, like Ashland Avenue,
They look very different.
looks on the north side
The sidewalks,
and the south side.
the maintenance of the building, none of which have anything to do with gun violence, only disinvestment.
Chicago's segregation is due in part to racist policies like redlining, where banks would designate properties in minority areas, delineated in red, as too risky for mortgage lending, excluding Black Americans from a primary pathway of building wealth, homeownership.
You have neighborhoods that are predominantly Black that have low home ownership as a result of the discriminatory practices. Businesses left, so you don't have a business corridor, so therefore you don't have jobs. And now the schools are starting to fail because they aren't properly funded.
Her solution, bring the North and the South together with map twins.
It can feel so overwhelming to try to take on systemic racism, but you have found a way to almost chip away at it one person at a time, one pair at a time.
Yes. Let's use segregation as the actual thing that can connect us.
In her project, she doesn't shy away from uncomfortable truths.
How much was your home?
It was $61,000.
And how much was your home?
$535,000.
You asked Wade and Nanette what they each paid for their house. You know, it felt a little awkward.
I think the awkwardness helps people understand how we're all participating in this system that was created before us. And it doesn't truly reflect how we want to connect with each other today.
Frankly, we're privileged. And it's hard to sit next to a friend who hasn't enjoyed that privilege. We realize that there's an opportunity to actually do something.
Wilson and Tucker are doing something together. 3 years after they met through the Folded Map Project, with others they created Englewood Renaissance, which is helping beautify parts of Englewood and is now focusing on increasing homeownership here.
Creating a community together. The economics might be different, the neighborhoods might be different, but the core of who I am is pretty much the same as Wade and Jennifer. I want the same things they want.
For CBS This Morning, Adriana Diaz, Chicago.
This is such an important story.
Yes.
It's such an important story. You have the same street and the different economic values and why that's happened. And
the difference in the numbers, Anthony.
Yeah.
61,000 versus 500,000 plus. But it's a perfect example to show that story on the same day that we did the 110 project.
Exactly.
Because it shows you that it starts there.
Yes.
And that's why this disparity and pointing out the disparity. Because I know there are many white people look and say, well, I don't have the privilege either.
This is not ancient. It shows it's not ancient history.
No.
The legacy of these practices from the mid-century are with us today, and they will continue to be with us because the value of these homes is the value of these homes.
Yeah.
And the question now, as we become aware of it, is what are we going to do about it?
And recognizing that it is an issue.
Yeah.
It is a major problem in this country.
That as long as that economic disparity continues to exist, you will have these differences will persist.
Yeah, so much more than planting a garden together. That's very lovely, but it's so much more than.
Well, I disagree with Gail. Planting a garden together is the work. And to demonstrate that, I just wanted to share a quick story. Wade, Nanette, and Jennifer, this piece is a little over a year old. And so they've actually known each other for more than 3 years. And they decided to expand my project, Folded Map, and create block twins. They introduced their neighbors to each other. So that little gardening event was more than just gardening. It was people meeting each other who would not have met each other otherwise. And that is the work. That is the thing that we have to do every day to disrupt this large systemic issue that feels so overwhelming. It's those moments that matter. And if we could advance the slide, I would like to share with you a little video about that event, that little gardening event. Gail said, that's nice, but it's much more than that. It is, and I want to share with you how that event went.
It's a concept that's been building for about 3 years. It started with Tanika Johnson's Folded Map project. My wife Jennifer and I were the first Northside map twins with our neighbor Nanette here on the 6100 block of South Bishop. And we've kept up the relationship for the last 3 years, and we've talked about, what we can do to build on it in order to close the gaps between the neighborhoods in Chicago with regard to social justice, economic equity, and what have you.
We started talking about putting a group together and somewhat modeling after Tanika's Folded Map. We decided that we wanted to do like block twins. We just want change on our block. We want to matter on our block. We're gonna plant flower boxes at the corner, entering into the 6100 block on Bishop. Some of the elderly neighbors want flowers in front of their house, so we're gonna dig up and put flowers in front of their houses. And we just coming together as a community from the north side and the community from the south side to bring one community together.
We're doing a beautification project just to get people from the north side and the south side together, working together to help beautify the block where the residents of this block want it to be beautified.
My hope is that we'll have broader conversations about how we can support one another, think about why our blocks are similar and different, and what are the systemic issues that might drive that difference.
I'm so excited to see people from all walks of life and different neighborhoods come together to improve the block and make it a beautiful space.
To see it happening and to be a part of it happening in a place that I grew up in a place that my aunt has lived for years is a beautiful thing.
Sadie planted 2 planters she made a new friend. What's her name again? Justice?
Yeah.
Justice, how old is she?
10.
And how old are you?
9.
Yeah.
This is community. Anytime we can get together, meet new people, meet neighbors, make new friends, have a good time in safety, you can't get past it.
And I just believe if people give it a chance, everybody can have it. You just have to give it a chance.
And so you can advance to the slide that says Folded Map Action Kit. So one of the ways in which I wanted to continue the impact of Folded Map, because I knew I wasn't going to be able to pair people together for the rest of my life because I have other projects that I want to do, I created the Folded Map Action Kit. And you all will be able to have an action kit. I'm going to give them to Rabbi, but it essentially is an invitation for people to go run errands in a neighborhood that is racially and economically different. And you can advance the slide so that they can see the kit that they will be getting. This is a special edition action kit that I created with the City of Chicago's first ever equity office. They knew about the action kit I created and wanted to partner so that we could make it available to more Chicagoans. And all the action kit really is, it's a way for people to get introduced into a neighborhood that doesn't feel uncomfortable or extractive, but allows you to understand as close as possible what residents in that neighborhood live their life like. So some of the errands include going to buy an organic apple, going to buy lotion. It's a very different experience. Go to take out $20 at an ATM. I created errands that kind of speak to how different sectors treat neighborhoods differently through disinvestment or choosing which neighbors to invest in. And so before I go, I would like to share another project with you all. It's really important that I share this with this community because I was definitely inspired by the way in which Jewish people and culture preserve the history of what they have historically gone through, the trauma of what their people have gone through, and I really use that as a source of inspiration for my next project. And the next project, you can go to the next slide, really helps people understand a little bit deeper of how Greater Englewood became the neighborhood that it is today and how that is connected with historic racism and segregation. And so before I share with you what that project includes, I wanted to just play another clip so you all can understand the context of what land sale contracts were and how they devastated not only Greater Englewood, but the entire west side of Chicago. So if it's okay, I'm gonna go over
This is really
a little bit of our, I see the timer counting down, so just about maybe 5 minutes. But I really wanted you all to understand this history so you can understand my role in helping people grapple with it. You can play.
Origin, in a modern sense, of the racial wealth gap in the United States. And in order to understand that story of how African Americans continue to be at such a position of disadvantage relative to whites all through the 20th century into the 21st century, long after the legal reforms of the Civil Rights Movement, to understand the perpetuation of that gap, we have to return back to this period and understand what were the mechanisms that put blacks at such disadvantages relative to whites.
Like many Americans, Sally and Albert Bolton aspired to a home in the suburbs or a better neighborhood inside the city. But in the 1950s, those options weren't open to black families. So they made a down payment on a house in what was called Chicago's Black Belt. For 2 years, they met their monthly mortgage payments on time. Then one day, they received an eviction notice for being late. One time on one payment.
That was when they went to see my father.
Mark Satter was an attorney who lived in the racially changing neighborhood North Lawndale.
What they asked of him was just to slow down the eviction. They said, we only missed one payment. We think we could pull this together. And if you could give us some time, we could keep it.
Reviewing the Boltons' papers, Sutter was surprised to see that they had paid 3 times what the seller had paid for it. In fact, he explained to the Boltons, this isn't a mortgage, it's a rent-to-own installment contract. And the man who drew it up, Jay Goran, he's the real owner.
After hearing this, they said we were misled in too many ways, and we want to sue him, and we want to stop this.
As Sutter prepared his case, he learned that the Boltons were not alone.
And he realizes that throughout the south and west sides of the city, there are brokers who control large numbers of property, and they're all selling on contract, and they're all selling at these huge markups. And he realizes this is horrifically dangerous.
This was the way systems worked. It was a scheme by which someone, could go into a community and take one house and effectively turn it over and over and over and over again. You wanted to evict people. There was incentive to evict people.
Evictions? Contracts? Why? Sutter asked himself. What's happening here?
Homeownership is the basis of a happy, contented family life. And now, through the use of a National Housing Act insured mortgage, is brought within the reach of all citizens on a monthly payment plan no greater than rent.
And that's how it works. Say the price of the home you want to buy is $15,000. You make a down payment of $2,000 and the bank lends you the balance, which you pay off at $110 a month for the next 25 years. Part of your payment goes for interest. That's what the bank charges for loaning you the money. The rest pays down your loan. That's your share of the house. With every monthly payment, your share of the house grows. That's called equity. What if you decide to move? You simply sell the house and keep your share. And if the house increases in value, you keep that too. This is how America's building its middle class, and individual families are building wealth, their financial nest eggs. I know, that's how I bought my house, but that's not how black people are treated. Let me show you. It starts with speculators, also called blockbusters. They go into a white neighborhood and knock on doors, telling white homeowners that the blacks are coming. The blacks are coming. Better sell now because the value of your house is going to drop if you don't. I can see your house is worth $15,000, but I'll give you $14,000. Scared, the white homeowner sells. Within days, the speculator hikes the price of the house and sells it to a black family for $27,000. The buyer makes a down payment of $2,000, is obligated to make payments of $252 a month. So why would anyone buy a house at such a high markup? Because white-owned banks refuse to make loans to blacks, especially if they want to move into a white neighborhood. Desperate for a home and having no other options, they go to the speculator. The speculator draws up a contract. You think it's a mortgage, but it's not. A contract doesn't accrue equity until it's paid off in full. Nada. Nothing. No equity. See, it's right there in the small print. Just check the box and sign your name to agree. So what if you want to move after living in the house for, say, 10 or 15 years? You lose everything. Remember, you don't have equity. You don't have a nest egg to borrow against for your child's education, to make home repairs or pay for medical emergencies. And like the Bolton family, miss one payment and you're evicted. There's incentive to evict the buyer so the speculator can keep all the money the family has paid and then resell the house to another buyer. Since the Boltons came to me, I've seen court records of hundreds of evictions on this model. Families on both sides are being built so that the speculators make a fortune buying low from whites and selling high to blacks. Federally insured mortgages to whites, price gouging contracts to blacks. Do you see what this is going to do to Chicago's black families and its neighborhoods?
And now, through the use of a National Housing Act insured mortgage.
So as I was growing up, I noticed that my neighborhood was starting to have a lot of vacant lots. I noticed that homes are starting to get torn down, but I didn't know the history of why that was. And it was a constant question. This map that you see here is a map of all of the former land sale contract homes in Greater Inglewood. And these homes were not required to be documented as former land sale contract homes. So this is a gross undercount. But these dots represent black aspiring homeowners who moved into the Greater Inglewood neighborhood but were lied to. They did not have a mortgage. And so I wanted to honor their goal and their dream to come here to Chicago, escaping the terrorism from down south. And I wanted to uplift the fact that my home neighborhood began with people who came here with money to participate in the home ownership that they thought was available here, but they were denied it. And so as I play the last clip for you, I would like for you to just think about what resonates with you. How does this help you understand our city's issues even more? And more importantly, how all of this contributes to segregation and how it impacts all of us by keeping us away from each other. Because you cannot heal, and this community knows it the most, without coming together to talk, to commune, to learn. And so you can play the next slide, and I will be here afterwards if you have questions, but you can definitely feel free to email me at foldedmapchicago@gmail.com or get in touch with the rabbi if you would like more information. But this is my Inequity for Sale project that I was deeply inspired by the ways in which the Jewish community uphold what their people have gone through. And it was my goal to do the same thing for my neighborhood. Thank you.
In the 1950s and 60s, fake mortgages gave the holder all the responsibilities of a homeowner, but only the power of a renter. The predatory process stole more than 3,300 homes and counting from Black Chicagoans. This is the focus of activist and artist Tanika Johnson's pop-up installation, Inequity for Sale, the latest in her game-changing and thought-provoking creative projects. I met up with her to find out why she picked this as a moment in history that she wanted to highlight.
So being from Greater Inglewood, growing up here and being a lifelong resident of it is really the motivation and inspiration for majority of my work. When you grow up in a neighborhood that has been historically disinvested in and you see how it impacts your personal life, it becomes the point of reference for a lot of my work. I had to travel outside of my neighborhood to obtain access to a lot of the artistic programs I was interested in. I went to high school on the north side because of the lower quality schools that were in the neighborhood as a result of disinvestment. So this issue has pretty much colored not only my life, but everybody who is from this neighborhood.
But now you got this new project called Inequity for Sale, partnering with the National Museum of Public Housing. How did that ball get rolling?
This report called The Plunder of Black Wealth came out, and it put a dollar amount on the money stolen from aspiring Black homeowners whose homes were sold to them on land sale contracts in the 50s and 60s. Greater Inglewood has gained the reputation of being like the poster child of everything wrong in Chicago, but this is the beginning of how that came to be. And so that's when I knew I wanted to do something to breathe new life into this report to help people understand this systemic issue in a more contemporary way.
So these land sale contracts, these scams as we call them, it was predatory lending in a sense, right?
Yes, so it was a discriminatory housing practice that not only sold homes at an extremely high markup to Black families who were redlined into certain communities, but they actually didn't own the homes, and they thought they did. And so that's the insidious part of this discriminatory practice, is that one, it was just unfair, the actual markup of the homes, but also the lie. They were lied to. They didn't have a mortgage, and they were told that they did.
So your project identifies and shows what homes here in Inglewood were impacted by that.
So a lot of the homes that are in Inglewood now that are abandoned, a lot of the vacant lot, they were land sale contract properties. And so I view it as, you know, we're living amongst evidence of this crime, this hidden evidence, and we didn't know it. And when we wonder why our homes in this neighborhood have been devalued, have not not appreciated in the way that other neighborhoods have, it's because of this history. So this project is identifying a collection of those land sale contract homes and putting land markers in front of them to acknowledge what happened here in this neighborhood and to memorialize the actual homeowners who were really pioneers.
This project itself, we're actually at the site of one of the homes, but it's not without controversy. The person who had ownership of this home wasn't very happy about the project.
Yes.
Took down the marker.
Yes.
What happened?
The most recent owner of this home took the land marker down within 2 weeks of it being installed. He said that people contacted him and asked if he was the one that stole the property from the people mentioned on the land marker, and he said he was offended by that. So he took the sign off and said that it was a lie.
Do you ask permission before you put these up?
No, because I specifically selected homes that were visibly neglected and abandoned, and personally, they are the perpetuation of the exact issue that my project aims to illuminate. Also, being a homeowner in this neighborhood and a resident, I literally have no respect for people who have property in my neighborhood that has been historically disinvested in, and they don't care for it, they don't keep it up, and it becomes an eyesore that decreases the value of the other homes that are on the block. So even though the land marker didn't seek to call out the current owners, the reason that I selected these homes is because they are the consequence of this discriminatory practice in the 50s and 60s.
So you are an artist who has taken an active part in using your art to create change and to get people to really actively engage.
Art is my personal love language. It's how I connect with people, the way in which I've built amazing relationships across race, nationality, because we share passion in art, and I think that art is the perfect platform to help people engage in really hard, difficult issues personally and delicately, if you will, because you can't always do it through legislation or politics, and art really allows people to engage with these issues in a more personal, introspective way. My hope is that when people come visit the land markers, that they talk to people who live on this block, or that the people who live on this block will definitely ask them, oh, what are you doing over here? And that's the important thing that art can do. It can bring people together.
And to learn more about Inequity for Sale or listen to the accompanying podcast, head to TonyJPhotography.com or check her out on social media.
Thank you so much, Tanika. And I'm not sure whether you're going to get a more formal thank you from Linda Tate. In the absence of that, let me just say thank you so much for the work that you do and for sharing that very important work with our community. We are looking forward to getting more involved with the Folded Mat Project. Hearing about your next project, I have a sense we might be getting involved with that as well. And I'll also say that it might be that we are the first, not only block to block, but faith community to faith community, and we look forward to that with the Folded Mat Project. Thank you so much, Tanika. Thank you. We turn now to the bottom of page 586, where we find the words of Aleinu. Please rise.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הרצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא ונאמר היה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
Please be seated. If you are interested in learning about the programming that's coming up in the Temple Sholom community, including tomorrow's Mindful Aging that's mixed presence at 1 p.m., you can find that as you're leaving the service this evening, you'll see that there are small cards that have a QR code. You can hold your phone to that, and you can find then the upcoming programming, or you can just go onto our website, sholomchicago.org, where you can find the latest programming as well. This is a Shabbat not only that comes just before Thanksgiving, it is also the Shabbat that comes before Transgender Memorial Day, which will be celebrated and commemorated on November 20th. We'll be celebrating the lives that were cut too short of transgendered loved ones whom we are dearly missing, who died from violence. And I'll say that while there are some people who died by violence that's obvious, there are some who died from wounds that are not easily seen. And so I will say that tonight we are remembering two beautiful people in our community, two wonderful young transgender women who died in this past week, one whose memorial we'll be celebrating as a community next week, and another who we will be celebrating their life as a community the week after. So I'll say to you, if you've not yet seen your emails, that we lost our beloved Phoenix Schmidt. Many of you have gotten to know Phoenix through services here, through study, through learning, through Oneg, and we are missing her greatly. And we also are announcing the passing of beloved community member April Ben Seeley. The memorial service for Phoenix will be in our community on November 30th at 2:30 in the afternoon. And we invite everyone to join us as we celebrate her life. Too short, but what a beautiful life we will be celebrating. And we will be having a funeral service and celebrating the all too short life of April Ben Seeley this Tuesday, November 22nd at 1 p.m. in the sanctuary. So this year, 2022, has already seen at least 32 transgender people fatally shot or killed by other violent means. So we say at least because too often these stories go unreported or misreported. In previous years, the majority of these people were Black and Latinx transgender women. These victims, like all of us, are loving partners, parents, family members, children, friends, and community members. They worked, went to school, and attended houses of worship. They were real people, people who did not deserve to have their lives taken from them. As we mark Transgender Day of Remembrance, we recommit to the work toward justice and equality for transgender and gender nonconforming people. We mourn those whom we have lost in 2022. Tiffany Banks, Samaj Billingsley, A.C. Morrison, Maya Allen, Dee Dee Ricks, Maddie Hoffman, Aaron Lynch, Candy Reed, Hayden Davis, Maricela Castro, Cherry Bush, Keshia Chanel Getter, Martasia Richmond, Kitty Monroe, Shaw Monet Giselle Marie, Brazil Johnson, Sasha Mason, Chanelika Yaela Dior Hemingway, Nedra Sequence Morris, Ray Muscat, Fern Feather, Ariana Mitchell, Maya Love Parker, Kenyatta Kesha Webster, Catherine Katie Newhouse, Tatiana LaBelle, Paloma Vasquez, Matthew Angelo Spam Pinado, Naomi Skinner, Cypress Ramos, Duval Princess, and Emirae Lage. As a congregational community, we are also announcing the death of Howard Galper, whose funeral plans are pending. We believe that they will be on Tuesday, November 22nd, with a funeral service here at 10 in the morning. Our hearts go out to all of their sorrowing families. Our condolences to their families. We're also remembering at this time Dr. Ernie Weiss and Tony Guzman, both of whose families are still in the first 30 days of mourning. As a community, we also mark the yahrzeit, the anniversary of the death of Joseph Arnov, Carrie Bade, Jolly Benak, Joan Blutter, Clara Brown, Louis Batita, Morris Fisher, Doris Goldberg, Marvin Gordon, Marla Graybell, Arthur Kaplan, Abdul Rahman Peter Kassig, Jules Katz, Lonnie Klein, Norman Cobert, Renee Kurjan, Ruth Lash, Brian Lasser, Sophie Levy, Joan Snyder-Lewison, E. Paul Lichtenstein, Robert London, Myra Menko, Rebecca Neuschatz, Ida Oering-Lessman, Carol C. Postelneck, Julius Rabai, Saul Reifler, Marvin Rosenblum, Dr. Leslie Radoy, Danny Monis Shaw, Isidore Siegel, Rose Stein, Tamara Schwartzman, Jacob Takath. And if there are others whom you are remembering, I invite you to say their name. Kaddish Yatom, the Mourner's Kaddish, is found on page 598. Please rise.
Yitkadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah, v'yalma divrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael ba'gala u'bizman kariv v'yimru.
Amen.
V'hishmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam u'lamei Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shemed kudshah. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tishbachata v'nechmata. V'amiran v'yalma v'imru.
Amen.
Yehi shlam araba min shemaya. V'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru.
Amen.
Oseh shalom min romav. V'yaseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru.
Amen.
Oseh shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru, imru, amen.
We lift up to you our dreams of a world where all are cared for, our dreams of wholeness, our dreams of a world where all are accepted and respected, a dream we know we will behold with all the work and the love there is for us to do together.
Page 647, just as we began, but with even more wisdom and heart now with us. O Ziv Zimratya Vayehil Yeshua. 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 O Ziv Zimratya Vayehil Yeshua.
You know, I started to see everybody start to kind of sway a little bit. Some people were just naturally holding on to each other. So, you know what, maybe just put your prayer book down. If you like the people around you, or you think you might like them if you knew them, if you're around somebody, you know, just put your arms around each other. If you really hate this kind of stuff, don't do it. If you see that, like, you know, like, oh, maybe you want to, and now maybe we just sing it one more time. Oh, Ziva Zimra Ya means like with our strength and our might, with our song, may we then find the strength in God, in each other, in this community, in Shabbat.
O Ziv Zimratya Vayehil Yeshua. O Ziv Zimratya Vayehil Yeshua. O Ziv Zimratya Vayehil Yeshua. O Ziv Zimratya Vayehil Yeshua.
Oneg is in Lakeshore Lobby. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.